What's up, guys? Welcome back to the ranch. All right, ranchers, I'm here on the edge of my food plot with my new screen behind me. If you didn't see me make that, I can include a link in the description on the video. But today, I'm standing in my little stream on the edge of my food plot. The stream marks the beginning of my food plot, and I got some red osier dogwood and yellow twig dogwood clippings that we're gonna plant right here in this stream. So let me pan down a little bit and show you the stream that's right here that runs up my mountain to my water spring. This runs downhill and starts my food plot. This side behind the camera is the food plot. That side is my woods and access. If I pan up, you could see the quad in the background. But today, we're gonna thicken up the edge of the food plot in this marshy, soupy, swampy area here that really doesn't have much in it to offer deer, with some red and yellow twig dogwood. I harvested some of these clippings the other day and just have them sitting in water here, and we're gonna pop them right in the ground, in the muck, in the mud, and let them take off in the spring and summer. Today is a beautiful end of February day. It's about 45 degrees in the sun, even though the temperature is cooler, and the ground is nice and mushy, which is going to allow us to take these twigs that I propagated, take these twigs that I cut, that are cuttings, hard cuttings, and propagate them right in the ground, in the mud. And what we're going to do is we're going to take one of these sticks, any one you want. You want to cut them on an angle down here at the bottom. Let me let that zoom in for you. Come on, there you go. Let me let that zoom in for you. And you want to cut them like right at a node on an angle so you can push them in about 2 nodes at the minimum. The deeper you could get these in, 3 nodes in, is best. Now for rooting, I usually only use like 3 nodes because I don't want the stem to have too much energy, that it's drawing up to the leafing area. But in this case, I want to get below the dirt to hold these in the ground, especially because sometimes during the freezing thawing process, these can slowly, I'll try to do it with my finger, slowly work, heave, and then fall out, which is what you don't want them to do. So that's why we're going to try to stick them in as deep as possible to allow for rooting. And what happens is the roots tend to pop out where the nodes are. So that's why we cut right at a node here on an angle as like a spear. So that's going to push right into the dirt. And one last thing I like to do with the bottom of these red twig osier dogwoods is take a little knife and right at the node here, I like to do a little like peel and aggravate the first couple of nodes, just like a little bit. And that will activate some of the natural stores of hormones in here that want to send out some roots. It doesn't got to be crazy. I mean, you see guys like cut around them and then peel all this layer off. You do not have to do that. Just one on one side like that, maybe one on the other side like I just did, and that is it. Let these go in the ground on at least up to the top 2 nodes, and that should help with rooting. Let's dive in and get that going. So I'm just crossing over where I am. I dug away some of the leaves with my boot on the edge here, just to expose the soil. And there's our first 1, 2, 3 nodes, and I'm just going to stick this in the ground somewhere in between all the shale where I got a good spot and I feel like I could stick it in as deep as possible. There we go. That locked in the dirt really nice. Now I'll do the same thing again closer up so you can kind of see it closer and firsthand. All right, let's come across the stream over to our little area we're working on. I'll pan down. Big tip for these, they have to go in the ground the way they would grow in nature. So sometimes I leave a little stem like that just so I know which way they are growing. So this has to go this way up. That would not go this way. If you did it that way, it's not going to root. So again, I cut right at the node. on an angle, so this will spear into the ground. And I'm just going to shave and damage the end there. And then at the second node, I'm going to do the same on one side just to stimulate some rooting hormone that's naturally pent up in these sticks. And let's stick this in the ground. Now you're saying, why would I stick it right next to it? Well, that's because this is a numbers game. Not all these are going to survive. And they could live in tight quarters together. This is not like an apple tree or something that, like an oak that needs a lot of space. These are essentially a stickweed. They could live close together, but I'm going to expect that a lot of these are not going to root and make it. So we're going to stick a few together. That's a good spot right there. See, I don't like, there we go. So you see how far I stuck that down? That's way over those couple of nodes. I'll do one more here for a group of 3. I'll even get closer for this one a little bit. So this one I actually didn't cut at the node like I usually do. So I'm going to just trim this right now with my little knife on an angle. I'll cut around it, snap it. And that'll work for me. That'll work right there. And now I'll damage one side on that node, and then I'll damage this side on that node. And we're gonna try to get it in at least that deep. All right. Let's stick that right with the other 3. You know what? I'll live crazy. Let's take this one that I just cut, stick it in the ground, see what happens. Who knows? And now this is our last one, and we're going to stick it right here as a trifecta. Let me get out of the sun so you can see a little bit better. All right. I'm going to stick it like a trifecta here in the dirt, as far down as you can get it. You really want it to feel like it bites. That one bit really, really good. I like the way that one feels. And now I'll just gently tap this in, and that'll be this little section. If you haven't used red osier dogwood before, this is one of deer's favorite browse. They call it deer candy, deer crack. You'll hear all people talk about woody browse that deer love, and this is highly sought after for the deer. In fact, there's none in this area, which is why I'm trying to reintroduce it. And I mean this area as in my parcel. I have none on it. So I'm trying to put it back in these wet spots to give some woody browse right here at the edge of my food plot to help take some of the deer food that I'm growing in green and give them some deer food that I'm growing in brown or red and woody browse here right at the edge, which will make my food plot more attractive. What I have to do though is cage this up. It's so sought after, the deer will probably come over and bite this off if I didn't. And I'm gonna cage it up with some mesh chicken wire cage and let this grow out of the cage over the next couple of seasons. So this is not gonna feed deer this year. I'm just hoping this roots and takes off. And when it does, this is like a weedy stem that will, when browsed, when it grows out of the top of the cage, shoots out more stems in other directions. Deer absolutely love this, and it can just be propagated like I'm showing you here. Let's go over and check out a couple that I did a few years back. Here's one I did a few years back, and it is growing wonderful. And it has a partner right here. This corner here was a very swampy, soupy area of my food plot, so I popped these in. If you didn't see me plant these guys, I can include a video on the link in the description, and you will see this was like one stick when it got put in here. In fact, I've had to raise the cage a couple of times on both of these because the browse pressure is so heavy and I want them to get bushier and taller. I'm gonna do the same thing now with the yellow twig dogwood, just a couple of feet over from the red twig dogwood. Again, this is a nice soupy spot. Dogwoods love water, so you don't have to worry about them rotting. In fact, it's usually called wet feet. Dogwoods can grow with wet feet, so we're just gonna give them what they like and let them grow. I'm slicing the edge off on one of the nodes. I'm gonna do the same on a second node. Oh, that one I cut way too much, so we're gonna start over. I'm gonna leave I'm gonna just pull that, cut that right back, damage it on, that's damaged on that node. I'll do the same right here, a little scratch. And now we're gonna just stick that right into the ground, right here. You wanna try to find a spot where they'll go in like that, right up to the top of that secondary node. And I'm gonna stick a couple right here. Here's another great one. Damage the node, slice it down. I mean, I've even done this with a vegetable peeler if you're not so comfortable with your knife, but you know, whatever, this was in my pocket, this is easy. And I damage it. Some guys will say you don't even have to damage these dogwoods, but I think it's fine. And we're gonna stick that one in the ground right next to this other one. I just gotta find a good spot to let this get in to the oh, that's not quite it yet. Let's go up a little higher. There you go. That's the spot right there. And we'll do one more. Break this stick out so it doesn't interfere with that. This little damaged spot, I'm gonna stick in the ground, you know? What could it do? Not grow? Who cares? Oh, but again, make sure you stick it in the right way in the ground. Let's see what happens there. And I got one more yellow twig dogwood that I'll stick in over here. I'll damage the bottom. Damage the second node. And we're going to stick this in as deep as we can right here as two clusters. I don't like it right there. Let's see. There's a lot of shale here in upstate New York, so I got to work where I can get in between. Oh, that was a good spot like that. And now I'll cage these two guys up and let these take off right here. And we're going to do that with all of these. Cages are in. They're not exactly pretty, but they will keep out the deer because the deer don't like the metal, and that should let them grow. And I did a test for you guys. I stuck two in the ground here and here next to the one with the cages to see what happens to them. And I bet those get eaten. All right, ranchers, and that's propagating some red osier dogwood. Thanks for watching.